Good morning, I'm Dick Wagner. Today I want to talk to you about marketing planning, some of the strategies that you should and could consider. First off, we need to talk about what are your most pressing marketing concerns. Is it new competition in your backyard? Are marketers just simply not performing the way you believe they should? Maybe it's that you simply, or your marketers or your company simply can't get enough leads and referrals and by extension, jobs. Or even worse, or certainly as aggravating, existing competitors continually undercutting your prices. We don't have time and the solutions to present all of these potential situations. It would take an hour or more of presentation, but I'm going to hit on a couple of them for you. One of the solutions is, when you're struggling with getting leads and referrals, is to do a deep dive and some research on your target prospects and those clients. Learn about them, understand what their issues and headaches are. Learn about their industry. So many times I talk with marketers and they say, well, yeah, I'm calling on this insurance agent or that plumber or this carpet cleaner or this industrial hygienist. And so then I'll ask them questions about the particular vertical that they're calling on. And well, I don't know. Geez, I have no idea. I'm not in that industry. How would I know that? Well, my answer they never like. My answer is learn about their industry, study it, Google it, do some research, learn how to use their lingo, their language, learn how to speak plumber talk or insurance agent talk. You know, it's not complicated. It can be as simple as, when you're talking to an insurance agent, use the term policyholder, for heaven's sakes. That's one of their terms or their lingo. They get it. Use the term covered peril. That's what your insurance agent uses. Learn it and then learn how to use it and where it's appropriate to learn it. Your competitors. If your competitors are a thorn in your side, there are ways to combat that. First off, you ought to learn about them. You ought to know who they are and what they're doing. You ought to have some idea of their angle. And I will strongly recommend that you don't obsess over it. But you should study their local business and have a pretty good gut understanding of how they're operating. And then one of the areas where you really want to understand your competitor is, do they have differentiation? And then how can you be different from them? Another solution: clearly define your own company services. And I'm going to give you a hint here. The services that you provide are not fire, water, smoke, or mold. Because when somebody says to you, hey, what do you guys do? We do fire, water, smoke, and mold. I hear that phrase all the time, and I have for 20 years or more. The fact is, you don't do fire. You don't do mold. So get out of that habit of saying something that's illogical or totally irrelevant. What you do is you provide recovery, helping them get back to the way they were when they have a disaster or a hiccup or a headache or a problem or a challenge with their property. Whatever your services are, you must make sure that they are different from your competition. And that doesn't mean that you do a water extraction in a totally different way necessarily. Sometimes it's simply in the way you package what you're different in, the way what you say you are different in, how you present those services. It can be something as simple as you're focused on policyholder satisfaction. That ought to ring a bell with the insurance agent. You're focused on really fast recovery for the policyholder with the minimal or least amount of disruption. That should certainly trip their trigger. You're also, in your whole effort to take care of that policyholder, you're completely focused on making sure that whatever you do and whatever you say, you're making the insurance agent, or if you're working with a plumber on a plumber referral, you're focused on making that agent or that plumber the hero in the whole thing. You don't have to be the hero. You don't need to take the credit. Give the credit to the insurance agent. Give the credit to the plumber that called you. Quit trying to hog the limelight. Another solution, continually reinvent your services. And as I said a couple minutes ago, I don't mean figure out a new way to suck water out of carpet. That's not what I'm talking about. And by the way, I added this in almost as an afterthought, but it hit me earlier that we need to say this. Don't keep adding more and more and more services to your portfolio of offerings, thinking that, well, if I add duct cleaning, that'll give me a little more profit and an edge over my competitor. Well, if I offer window washing, that'll give me one more little edge. Well, if I offer snow plowing or driveway shoveling of snow, that'll give me an edge. Whatever it is, you can't keep adding more and more services and be successful in most cases. When you need brain surgery, you don't go to the doctor that does it all. You go to a specialist. You aren't worried about the cost when you're going to a specialist. You're worried about that they're going to do the surgery correct. So sit down and brainstorm and see if you can redefine what you're offering. Sure, you're offering water extraction in a flooded house, but redefine it. Redefine what you call it, how you describe it, and why that matters to the client. Offer something the competitor can't or doesn't offer. I really like the idea of, in differentiation, creating what I call a bundle and then label that bundle with something attractive. Now, I'm going to give you a very simple example. A lot of people like those little cherry tomatoes, those little, about the size of grapes. And there's one company that, well, let me just say it like this. Many companies that offer those little cherry tomatoes, they're all red and they're all exactly the same size, and they're called cherry tomatoes or sweet 100s or whatever. But somebody had a brilliant idea and they can't keep them on the shelf. This vendor or this tomato company came up with a package called Wild Wonders. And what they did is they added all of the artisanal cherry tomatoes all in one package. They're green and they're purplish and they're reds and they're yellows and they're different shapes and they have different tastes. And so, yeah, they're selling tomatoes just like everybody else, but they're calling them wild wonders. And incidentally, I like them and I like the different flavors of the tomatoes. So that's what we buy when they're available. That's called creating a bundle and then labeling it with something. You can also do that in the restoration business as well. I want to be absolutely clear. You can't just sit down with your staff and brainstorm this stuff and after an hour or 2 or 3 get up and say, okay guys, high five it, let's go back to work. That is not going to work. You need to clarify it. You need to write out the strategy. You need to have some very specific ideas and techniques for how you're going to ask for introductions, how you're going to ask for referrals to other insurance agents or plumbers. You need to know exactly what local chapters of what organizations you want to join and then go after them. You need to know which networking groups you want to participate in. Who are the email newsletters that you're going to send to? What kind of direct bulk email are you going to try? And that's going to be very targeted. Are you going to make cold phone calls? Are you going to send cold emails? Are you going to do blogging? Are you going to participate in Facebook groups, on Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest? And there's others. There's Parler, there's MeWe. There's a number of different ways that you can interact and engage on social media. You also can present webinars like I'm doing. You can do Zoom meetings, which I also do regularly. And obviously, the thing that we've done for years, but kind of got a roadblock put up when the pandemic happened, you can do face-to-face. So the solution is you need to attract prospects in any reasonable and practical way you can. And after you've done that, you need to build the relationship, build the engagement, make them more aware of you with more and more touches. And as that happens, many of those will turn into opportunities, jobs, referrals, leads. They'll actually become clients and customers. So in a quick recap, identify any new tools or skills you need. Maybe you need a better and more relevant website. Maybe you need to be using appropriate Maven articles. If you're a Crest member, you know what Maven articles are. If you've attended the Restoration Marketing Specialist certification course, you absolutely know what Maven articles are. There's a whole library of them on thecrestnetwork.com. Maybe you need a more efficient or a more effective CRM, customer relations management software. Maybe you need to even consider investing in paid SEO services. I'm not a huge fan, and there are ways that you can do search engine optimization organically, but maybe you don't have the time or the skill, so hire an SEO company. Just be very, very careful. Maybe you just simply need to engage in enhanced and consistent social media. I have a client that was doing really good with her social media. She got started into Facebook, but it wasn't consistent. She'd post on a Thursday and then she'd go 10 days before she'd post again. And then she'd post on the next week, and then she'd post the next day, and then she'd post 2 days later, and then she'd go 9 days with nothing. That's not going to work. Create short personal messages and short 1 and 2 minute videos for Facebook and Twitter and your website. Subscribe to and use a robust email newsletter software program. So, write out a budget for each new strategy, and maybe there's minimal cost. Maybe the budget is more about time. Put that strategy and those steps in writing and in great detail, and then establish very specific deadlines for each one of those strategies, and then track. If you've got a deadline to achieve something in 90 days, put it on the calendar and put a reminder at 30 days and at 60 days and at 70 days and 80 days. Make sure that you're going to hit your deadline at that 90-day point, if that's the date. I'm Dick Wagner. You've been watching the Crest Network, and I'm so glad you took 15 minutes to do that. Bye-bye.